This road I'm on, it's blacktop and gravel. It's a faded blue line.
We were touring out in Oregon. We first started the band. We had this old brown 78 Chevy Suburban that had, it was a classic, you might say. Cody bought it for $1,500. It had 160,000 miles on it when we got it, and I think by the time we stopped driving, it had like almost 400,000. But by the time we stopped driving, it had like one window roller that we would like pop off and pass around because it was the only one. And so you'd have to, like, if you wanted to roll down the window, you had to ask for the roller. And that was the rig we're driving around in on this tour. And we'd always have a sober driver, of course, but we had a rule called the 200-mile rule. And it started as the 200-mile rule, and it ended up being like the 500-mile rule, and then eventually like the 1,000-mile rule. But that rule meant that if we were within 200 miles of getting back to home, you could crack a beer. Jazz one day decided to activate the 200-mile rule about 2,000 miles early. He was from Connecticut, and this is kind of his first time to spend out west. He'd never really seen cows just hanging around. So we bet him $50 that he couldn't touch a cow. He thought he was just gonna saunter up and just touch a cow. And so, you know, he's pretty trashed at this point. He like climbs over this fence all drunk, and he gets about halfway out to this big old herd of cows. Sure enough, they start moving, and so he starts running after them, and they start running, and before you know it, Jazz is just out in the middle of this field chasing this herd of cows.
He couldn't catch one of the cows, so we made it about another 30 miles down the road. I saw this whole pasture full of bulls, so I pulled over and was like, Jazz, why don't you try and catch one of those? They're a little slower. He made it about halfway over the fence before somebody just said, no!
Keep it locked down, because coming up next, we'll have Texas musicians talking about their favorite Texas blues artists in our Texas Legend feature.